Okay, so for this drawing, like every other drawing that we do in here, we're going to start drawing very lightly. I'm going to draw a head here, body in here. The character is going to look like it's running, but it's actually going to be playing soccer. So, draw very lightly. So lightly that you can almost not see it. It should be almost imperceptible. This way we won't have to erase later on. We're going to do a 3/4 view on the head by making something that looks like a beach ball. This is how we plot the features on the face. The backbone is curved to give what's called an action line. And then down here we're going to do an angled rectangle for the hips. Again, all of these lines are drawn very lightly. For the chest area, we're just going to do a circle that represents the lungs or the rib cage. Do a diagonal line here with points on the end of it. Those are the shoulders. Draw an angled line going this way for the top of the arm. And then we're going to bring it down here to the wrist. And we're going to draw an oval to represent where the hand goes. From this arm over here, go down to this point, which is the elbow. Bring the arm up and put the hand here. And again, these little circles represent the joints of where things are plotted. This is where the hips are. I'm going to draw a diagonal line coming this way. That circle represents the knee. Then we're going to bring this one back. Another circle for the ankle. Then we're going to do an oval for the foot, but the foot has two parts to it. This is the heel down to the middle of the foot. The toes would go here. We're going to do a half circle for where the toes go, or the front of the foot. And then this leg is going to be mostly going straight out. I'm going to go ahead and do the knee anyway so that we can separate it out. And then we're going to change the angle just a little bit here. Do another oval for the foot. And this character has really large feet. In fact, we're going to extend the feet even farther than they normally would be, just for some fun. So that's the basic skeleton of this creature, this character. What makes this character unique is rather than being human, it's going to be an animal. And it's a pretend or make-believe animal. So right where these two lines meet, I'm going to draw two diagonal lines going this way, and then I want to try and match this curve at the end of it. Then I'm going to turn that shape into a cubed looking shape, because that's the muzzle of this particular creature. So this is a fantasy creature. One of the things I want you to note is how things are overlapped. This hand is actually going to be behind this part of the face. This hand crosses over in front of the body. And then because this character is playing soccer, we're going to put the soccer ball right about here at the elbow. So that it looks like the character's either kneeing the ball or just flipped it up with its foot. Here's where it gets interesting though. We're going to put some long toes on this creature because it's kind of like a lizard. And we're also going to do the same thing for the hands. So the fingers are going to go way up here. And again, we're just doing this for fun. And to mix up a character that we've already drawn, or I should say for a figure that we've already drawn. And just so that it doesn't look like he's touching the ball here, we're actually going to change this slightly and make the hand go down this way instead. So this is a variation from the drawing that we did in class. I'll be able to tell who looked at the video to complete this assignment and who was in class and did the design in class. So now that we've got the skeletal feature figured out, we're going to start adding some details. And the first two details are, since it's kind of a lizard character, we're going to do two large nostrils here. Since this one is on this side of the face, we're going to be able to see the inside of the nostril here and only the top and outside there. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to add two ovals here and one here, and also one here going sideways, because this particular character has horns. I'm putting a dot up here so that I can curve this horn around like this and then back on its face like this, almost like a rhinoceros. Except that rhinoceros don't have three horns, they just have the one. This is more like a triceratops. So I'm going to put another dot up here and curve this line like this and back like this. We're going to do another one over here and do the same thing with the horn on this side. What is not evident yet is that you're not going to be able to see this part of the horn because it's on the other side of the head. Then from the center of this horn, we're going to come straight back here and up to the center of the head. Again, this helps to show that the face is turned sort of that way. Then we're going to add two eyes right here and right here. Please remember that if I go too fast on this, you can pause the video at any time and then pick up afterwards, restart the video, because there is a lot of detail in here and because I'm talking very fast. So since we want the character to look at the ball, we're going to put the eyes here, the pupils here. And then for now, we're going to go ahead and start building out the face, because it's going to get too confusing if we just continue to do construction lines in here. So, drawing the first thing that's in front, I'm applying a little more pressure. And also thickening up the line to make it stand out. Instead of doing a solid line here, I'm going to do a series of bumps going down the center of its face. Just again to give it a little more character and make it a more interesting drawing. Then I'm going to draw the top of the nostril here and come down below this part of the muzzle and do the same thing on the other side. And again, since you can't see the inside of this one, we're going to overlap the mouth here, or the muzzle, darkening it in and then making it look like it's smiling. Give it a little curved line for a cheek. The nostril looks like a backwards number 6. So it overlaps there. And then if you want to, you can shade this part in. Next we can do this part of the head It's going to go from this nostril over here and up to the top of the head, and we're going to stop at this horn because this horn's in front of that part of its head. Then we can draw the horn, and we could have drawn the horn first just so that it didn't confuse when you drew that part of the head. We're going to leave the rest of this alone for now. Darken in the eyes and the pupils. Darken this horn in. And that's pretty much most of the face. Just going to add a little overlap there. Smooth out this line a bit. I like to make the lines extra thick rather than just drawing a single dark line, because it makes your characters almost look like they're in a coloring book. It also enables them to be reduced. If I were to add this to a book, I could reduce this by half of the size, shrink it down, and because the line's thick, it won't disappear when you reduce the size of it. So it looks very much like a coloring book page when we're finished. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to block in where the shirt is, or the jersey, by drawing around the shoulders a curved rectangular shape. And again, it's fairly confusing in here, but I'm going to go ahead and draw the rest of the shirt here. Notice how I'm curving all these lines. In this case, the jersey is untucked. Then I'm going to draw the sleeve over here that looks like a bell. So if you think of a bell shape, curved at the top, curved at the bottom like this. We're going to draw both of them at the same time, even though most of this one's going to be obscured by the features on the chest and some of the other things that are going on over here. But again, if we draw them at the same time, we can get the size of the shirt sleeves about the same. Now that I've got the shoulders blocked in, this particular creature is like a large lizard or a dinosaur, and so the neck actually goes right down to the edge of the shoulders, and then we're going to draw a curved line like this for the top of the shirt. And again, I'm just doing all of my lines very lightly until I've decided where the finished lines are, so that I can determine, for instance, this is what the neck looks like. Once I'm convinced that it looks the way it should, I can go ahead and darken in those features by applying a little more pressure and making the line thicker. I'm going to draw this hand first, just in case there's a slight overlap where the ball is. And all I'm doing is I'm outlining these shapes and elongating the fingers, because lizards have very long, skinny fingers. And long toes as well. From the elbow to the wrist, it's almost triangular shape. So it tapers down to the top of the hand here and up to the elbow here. And then we can have the sleeve come up over the top of the arm and curve here like this. So I'm going to go ahead and do the top of the arm down to the fingers, from the elbow down to the wrist, and then I can draw the sleeve over the top. Here again is where it looks like a bell. So you've got this part on the inside of the shirt where it overlaps. When you do this sleeve, don't go all the way to the top of the shoulder. We're going to stop about there. Then we can do this part of the shirt at the top. It's got sort of a rounded V-neck. And you should already start to see or start to notice that as long as our lines, our finished lines, are thicker, all of those construction lines almost disappear. And I say almost because obviously you can still see them. The reason why I do this is because if we were going to do these as final pieces of artwork, we would trace over this or transfer it to another sheet of paper. But for our purposes, since I want to see the work that students are doing, I ask that they don't erase, so that I can see all of the construction lines and how everything was connected. Again, I'm not going to go all the way up on this. Shoulders up here. I'm going to leave this arm alone for the moment. And then I'm going to put the ball shape in here. And notice how the ball overlaps the foot here. I never played soccer on a team, but I did watch enough of it in my daughter's games to know that you can't touch the ball with your hand, otherwise it's a penalty. And so I want to be careful, even in the cartoon, to not have the hands too close to the ball. We're going to treat this arm over here the same way we did this one. From the elbow, we're going to do a rectangular shape, or excuse me, a triangular shape. And again, there's a little bit of overlap here where this hand is behind the head. So I'm going to draw the forearm. And this is the other sleeve. And then I'm actually going to cheat a little bit and make the sleeve look like this. And draw the rest of the arm going down here. Bottom of the forearm to the hand. I always like to start with the finger that's in front, so that would be this one. And the fingers are really long and thin. If you look at any lizard illustrations or an actual lizard, you can see that they've got these really long, skinny fingers. And then we're going to do a little V shape like this for the thumb and bring it down to the palm of its hand like this. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to box in where the pants are. So we're going to do two rectangles, one here for this pant leg, one here for this pant leg, and then we're going to connect them in the middle with a diagonal line like that. I'm going to go ahead and darken in those lines. Again, I'm overlapping, but not going all the way up to the bottom of the pant leg or the waist. Next thing I'm going to do is add some shin guards by doing some rectangles here and here, because soccer players wear shin guards to protect their shins, which get kicked quite a bit. Almost forgot the toes here. Since this foot goes behind the soccer ball, I'm just going to start here and do the same thing that I did with the other ones, where there's a little bit of overlap. And I'm altering the way the foot looks just slightly. So again, with this overlap here, it looks like he's either about to kick the ball, or maybe he's trying to block it, or maybe hit it with his knee. Darken in where the shin guard is. Drawing the knee behind the shin guard. And then we can bring this down and connect it to this part of his leg. Heel comes around, connects to the bottom of the foot here. And then because they've got plastic pieces in it, we're going to make it look like it's got some volume by doing these curved lines. I'm going to start with this toe here. Overlapping them because this one's in front of that one and this one is in front of that one. One of my students earlier today said, that looks really creepy. And it kind of does. Almost looks like Edward Scissorhands and Scissor Feet. Again, I'm doing the curved lines for the shin guards. Do the foot up into the shin guard there and here. And that's pretty much most of the drawing. I'm going to zoom into the soccer ball so that you can see the pattern on a soccer ball. So I'm just zooming in really tight here. The pattern of a soccer ball is pretty standard for the black and white ball. It starts with a pentagon, which is a 5-sided shape. I'm going to darken in this one so that you can see the difference. Notice that it flares out from the base of the pentagon. So all of the black spots of the ball are pentagons. The shape that goes out from here is a hexagon, which has 6 sides. This line right here and this line right here are parallel. There's another pentagon over here, and that one's going to be darkened in. So beginning with the original one, I'm just going to do that same shape repeatedly. So it goes out from here, down to here, down to there, and there's another hexagon. Another hexagon here. Top of this one, parallel with this part here of this pentagon, is another dark spot or black spot. So at the end of every parallel line like this one, there's another pentagon here. And then there would be a hexagon here. Come up this way. Go that way. Hexagon, pentagon, hexagon, pentagon. Has a nice ring to it. So that around each pentagon are 5 hexagons. And then again, where these lines are parallel, the next shape over is a pentagon. Just keep continuing that all the way around until you've got what looks like a soccer ball. The last thing we're going to do on here before we photograph it to add to our slideshow is we're going to add some shading. If you draw with a mechanical pencil, you might want to get a regular pencil to do the shading. You can certainly use a mechanical pencil to shade, but it's going to use up a lot more lead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a horizon line here, and then using the side of the pencil, I'm going to start shading in the top around the character. I don't always go to the very top of the page. I just like to have an area mostly surrounding the character. One of our vocabulary words is negative space. So we've got the positive image and the negative space around it. So I'm shading in the negative space, or adding a tone in the negative space with the side of my pencil. I do this sort of quickly without making a mess. And then one other thing I like to do is, as close to the character as possible, I'm going to apply a little more pressure to add a little more depth to the area behind it. So we're just adding tone, applying a little more pressure with the side of my pencil to give it some variation around the character. Just gives it a little more depth when you do this. And since there's two tones up here, you can kind of do the same thing down here, but just leave this area really dark, close to the character. And then if you want to add some down here, you can also, but make this very light. So you can do that rather quickly. Again, it just adds some depth to the image. We're also going to add some dark shades down here, dark tones down here, to make it look like it's shadow underneath the character. Gives it a little more weight. And then the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to add some shadows to the character itself. So since this sleeve over here is on the other side, we're going to start up here under the chin and darken in most of that sleeve, and then just go alongside the shirt here behind the hand to add some shadow to that side of the character. Underneath its chin up to its mouth, underneath the arm here, between the fingers. We're going to go down here below the shirt line and on this leg over here, underneath the shin guard here, down at the bottom of the pant leg there, and also that shin guard and the top of his foot over here. So again, with some just very basic shading, we can add some depth to the character. Any place where you can imagine there being shadow. So if the light's coming from this direction, the shadow's going to be on this side over here. And just like you did up in here, where you darkened in a bit, right next to where the creases are, you can add a little more pressure and make the shadows a little bit darker. And also add a little bit to the front of the muzzle and that nostril over there, on this side of the head, on that part of the horn. Again, just to start adding some shadows. The other thing this helps is most of the construction lines appear to be gone, even though you can still see them. When you shade over something, it tends to hide them a little bit. Put a little bit under the horn here. And this drawing is a little more detailed than the one we did in class. We added more shading to this one. So here again, I'll be able to tell who in class preferred to draw this one than the one we did in class, because there's a lot more details on this one. And there you have it. That's the finished drawing. So we're going to take a picture of this with our computer and add it to our slideshow. And you can watch this video again. And if you want to draw this other one, draw this one for extra credit.